Hi, welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be my November wrap-up and December TBR. So I'm a little bit late on posting this, and I kind of debated whether or not I should even share my November wrap-up because I did only read 4 books, but I decided to just combine it with my December TBR. So that's what this video is. I'm going to be sharing the 4 books I read and then the books that I want to read in December. So starting off with my November wrap-up, the first book I read was Twisted Games by Anna Huang. So I did read most of this book in October. I was hoping to finish it by then and include it in the October wrap-up, but that didn't happen. I ended up finishing it on November 1st. And I loved this book so much. It's like one of my favorites. It's the second book in a series, but it is like a standalone, so you don't have to read them in order, but I would recommend reading them in order. I did do a review for the first 2 books, and I will put a link to that. But this book was so good. It basically follows this girl named Bridget, and she's a princess, and so it's a princess bodyguard romance. And it's like forbidden love, because obviously they're not supposed to be together, and then there is an age gap. It's like a 10-year age gap. I won't go into too much detail because I did do a full review on it, so if you want to know more, you can check that video out. But I did really enjoy this book, and I rated it 5 stars. The next book I read was Kulti by Mariana Zapata, and this was another amazing book. I loved it so much. It's so good. I am still thinking about it. And I also did a review for this one, so again, I will put the link to that. But when I was reading this book, I really enjoyed it. It was a little bit slow in the beginning, but I just loved it so much. I feel like my feelings have changed a little bit on it for the better, because when I first read this book and did my review and everything, I rated it 4.5 stars. But at this point, I think it might even be 5 stars. But this book is a sports romance. It basically follows this woman who's a professional soccer player, and her childhood idol, who is also a soccer player, and he's very famous. He comes to be the assistant coach for her team. But when he gets there, she realizes that he's not really who she thought he was. And she always kind of idolized him and looked up to him, and then she realizes that he's kind of a jerk. But it's so good. It is a slow burn, because all Mariana Zapata books are, and I just loved it so much. And again, I have that review if you want to know more about this book. So next, I decided to start the Addicted series by Krista and Becca Ritchie. So the first book is Addicted to You. So the series is basically 10 books in total. They're like 2 separate series, but you're supposed to read them intertwined. So the Addicted series is 5 books, and then there's the Calloway Sister series, which is a spin-off, and that's another 5 books, but they are meant to be read in a certain order. And I was hesitant to read these books for a little while because they are 10 books, and I like to read series that follow each other like all at once. So I knew once I started this one, I would be committing to reading 10 books. But I decided to start it, and my goal was to finish this by the end of the year. I don't know if we're at that point as of now, but I've been enjoying it so far. This first one, I rated it 4 stars. There wasn't too much of a plot throughout most of this book, but I did like some of the characters when I was reading this one. But this series basically follows 2 childhood friends, Lily and Lo, and they're about 20 years old now, but they have been pretending to be in a relationship for the last 3 years because they both have addictions that they're hiding from their family. So Lily is a sex addict, and then Lo is an alcoholic, and basically they kind of enable each other because they both kind of help each other like hide those addictions from everyone else. But eventually they fall for each other, and they decide to pursue a real relationship, and obviously there's kind of a lot of conflict with that because they're continuing to enable each other with their addictions. But like I said, there wasn't too much of a plot with this one, but I did think it was a good introduction for the series. And once I finished it, it definitely made me want to continue reading. So of course, after that, my next book was Ricochet, which is the second book in the Addicted series. This one is the shortest, but it took me so long to get through because it just wasn't really that interesting, to be honest. It was a little bit boring, and I found myself not really enjoying it for the most part, but it was very necessary to the storyline, so I see like why it's there, and there was kind of a lot that happens that helps like bridge it to the next book. But I gave this book, I think, 3.5 stars. I just didn't really enjoy it too much. It almost made me want to pause reading this series for a little while, but I did end up picking up the next book, which I'm glad that I did. But yeah, this book is just a continuation of Lily and Lo's story, and you get to see kind of some of the side characters that end up having their own books later on. And I don't want to get too much into my thoughts on these books as of now because I am planning to do a video once I am done with the entire series. So that's my November wrap up. I did end up starting the 3rd book in the Addicted series. It's called Addicted for Now, and I was hoping to finish it by the end of November, but that didn't happen. So that leads me into my December TBR. So of course the first book on my December TBR was Addicted for Now, which is the 3rd book in the series. I did end up finishing this one at the beginning of December, but I just decided to include it in this video anyway. So the next book that was on my December TBR was Kiss the Sky, and this is the first book in the Calloway Sister series, which is the spin-off series to the Addicted series, and since you are supposed to read them intertwined, this is the 4th book that you're supposed to read. So I'm about halfway through this book right now. I'm hoping to finish it within the next day or two because I think I said this earlier, but my goal was to finish the entire series by the end of the year. But I'm trying not to get too ambitious with that because I don't know if it's going to happen, but I am currently reading this book. So the next book on my TBR is Hot House Flower, which is the 2nd book in the Calloway Sister series, but the 5th book that you read with all of the books in total. And this one just follows 2 characters that appeared in the other books. So these books follow 3 different sisters, so this one just follows the youngest sister. And I really liked her and the love interest of this book so far from what I've seen in the other books, so I'm excited to get to this one. So the next book I want to read is Thrive, which again is part of the Addicted series. And I'm so excited to get to this book because it does follow Lily and Lo, who were the first couple in this series, and I love them so much, so I'm so excited to read about them again. So then the next book I want to read is Addicted After All, which is the last book in the Addicted series. So again, this one just follows Lily and Lo. This is the last book that I feel like realistically I can finish this month within this series, so I'm kind of just leaving it at that as like my realistic TBR, but I would love to be able to read the rest of the series. I'm just going to share them anyway, even if I don't get a chance to read them. So the next 2 books are Fuel the Fire and Long Way Down, which are both part of the Calloway Sisters series. And again, I'm trying to be hopeful that I'll get to these, but I just think realistically I won't. And the book that comes after that is Some Kind of Perfect, which is the final book in this series. It is like the epilogue book. And this one is pretty long. I really just don't think I'm gonna get to it. I also have seen a lot of people who do take breaks while they're reading this series because they don't want to finish it. So I feel like that's what's gonna end up happening is I'm gonna like read this series very slowly once I get to like kind of the last few books because I'm not gonna want it to end. And so I think I'm gonna end up reading this book probably like at some point in January. I think if I had read a little bit faster with the first few books, I probably would have finished this series by the end of the year. But the first ones were kind of difficult to get through because they were a little slow, but this series is definitely picking up now at the point that I'm at, so I'm excited to get through it. And so I did just want to share this entire series since I am currently reading it and hoping to get through it soon, even if I happen to not finish it by the end of the year. So the next book that I want to read is Window Shopping by Tessa Bailey. This one I'm for sure going to read at some point because it is a Christmas book. I got it a couple weeks ago and I have been waiting to read it. It is pretty short. It's like a pretty thin book and it's only like 250 pages. So I haven't started it yet, but I am planning to kind of read it at the same time that I'm reading the Addicted and Calloway Sister series, which I don't normally do that. I don't like to read more than one book at once, but I really want to make sure that I get through the Christmas books that I have because obviously it's Christmas time and I don't want to wait another year and I don't want to read them when it's not Christmas time. So this one I'll definitely be reading soon. So the last book on my December TBR is In a Holidays by Christina Lauren, which again, this is another Christmas book and another one that I'm just planning to hopefully read at the same time as my other books, but I will definitely be getting to this book. I've been so excited to read it. I bought it like in July, so again, I have been saving it for December, and I really love Christina Lauren. They always write really cute books, so I can't wait to read this one and to have just another Christmassy book to read. So that's it for my TBR. Obviously, there will be an update on whether or not I finish these books once I do my December wrap up. I've noticed that my last few months of reading have been really slow, so I'm hoping that in the new year, my reading will pick up again and I'll get through books a lot faster. But that's it for this video. Please subscribe if you liked it and want to see more, and thank you so much for watching.